Hey guys, what's up? Nico again here. And in this 3D Printer Profits episode, I got Brandon with me from Darkwing Dad on YouTube. And we're going to talk about basically how he started his business, how he got into it, stuff like that. And as always, all his links that he's going to talk about is going to be in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're in your favorite podcast player, it's going to be in the show notes down below. So, Brandon, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. A little bit of a fan here. I know when I first got into 3D printing, I joined your page right away and seen all the cool stuff that you create and everything. So really honored to be on the show.
Appreciate it, man. So let's get started here, dude. What's your background? How'd you get into all of this stuff?
I started going to auto body school pretty much fresh out of high school. Started at a technical school and just kind of found out that auto body guys don't really make a lot of money. I had project cars that I was always working on. I was, fixing them with fiberglass and Bondo, painting them, building stereo boxes and all that stuff. So I kind of transitioned from auto body into more custom work, like custom stereo. And now I actually run a business where we do automotive restoration, refinishing, paint correction, painting, clear coating, ceramic coatings, all that stuff. So, I kind of got into 3D printing, like many of us, during lockdown and COVID. You didn't have a lot to do, you know what I mean? Like I was limited to what hours I could work at the shop. I was homeschooling my kids and, I went out and got a CR10 and started making stuff. And then I was like, hey man, I did this for a long time. So, I started building helmets and building different things. And my background with electrical, I was able to wire in lights and servos and relays and all that fun stuff and make some cool stuff. Haven't built the whole suit yet, but it's getting there. But just, kind of killing time. And then I started looking at it like, hey man, I could sell these things for, a good amount of money. Like they look pretty good. And then I, kind of jumped on like Instagram and started doing the YouTube and just started getting a lot of good feedback from people. Kind of built my confidence and just kind of.
When you say suits, like you're talking about Iron Man suits and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And the problem is, we've seen there's so many people that build them. I mean, it's not a short process. And if you know me at all, I'm super OCD. So it's like, I go for that like showroom finish, like I'm, wet sanding everything. And so for me, whether if it's something that I'm selling somebody or something I'm building for myself, I always put my best work forward. Like in the car industry, they always say, treat, when you're working on a car, treat it like your own. But I don't do that because whenever I worked on my car, I just got whatever I needed done to get it running. You know what I mean? Like zip ties and duct tape and stuff like that. So whenever I'm working on something, especially with 3D printing, it is an art, and I come from a very artsy background. At one point I wanted to be an artist, but then I found out they make even worse money than mechanics and auto body guys. You know what I mean? So it's for me, it's like euphoria, when you're sanding something, when you're painting something, when you're working on something. And just patience is key. And with me, I just like to take my time. I do not have the fastest turnaround, on my projects, but I can guarantee you my best work is always put forward. So
gotcha.
That's kind of where I come from, is the meticulousness and just trying to really get it knocked out good from that auto body background.
So how much are you making on your business now, your 3D printing business?
Right. So, it took about 6-7 months before I really got comfortable with, calibrating the printers, getting them all dialed in. Cause like a lot of people, when they get into 3D printing, they don't do temp towers, retractions, they just throw the spool in, like, whatever, I'll sand it out. So I was doing that at first, and I'm like, man, let me learn this technology, So once I really got comfortable, it was about the 6 to 8 month mark. And, in my first year, whether it was raw prints, whether it was specialty printed prints like silk ones and TPU and stuff like that, and then obviously finished helmets brought in the most amount of money. However, they took the longest time. I was hovering around 23,000 in my first year of 3D printing. So roughly about 6 to 8 months after, I kind of tinkered and kind of learned the technology. I brought in about 23,000. Now, of course, I had to pay taxes on that because I claim that as an individual.
So that 23,000, is that profit?
No, that's not profit. So, roughly as far as the cost of printers, filament, and then taxes and everything, the total profit was sitting somewhere around $17,700.
That's pretty respectable in your first year. That's pretty good.
Right. And of course I went crazy. I had one printer and then, orders start coming in. I bought four more. It's like,
Sure. I
it's
mean,
just
you got
what
to invest
it
it back into the business, right?
exactly. It's what you do. And then you got to buy, replacement parts, little things like nozzles, and you do upgrades and things like that. And then of course, you got your things like your Bondo, your putties, your paints and all that. So all that is basically, corresponded in, roughly you want to consolidate anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 aside that you're going to have to put back into the business. Luckily things like filament and putties, they're readily available. They don't really cost that much. But it's still overhead. So to sit there and say, hey, I made $24,000, yeah, that was my gross. That wasn't my take home. So somewhere around 17, I like to keep it at an even number, somewhere around 17,000 when all was said and done.
That's cool. So how do you figure out what new products are going to sell? Like, where do you come up with the ideas?
So, when you get into, doing anything with, whether it be 3D printing or anything that's relative in the sales world, being a designer, you want to try to be the first. So when you see like your Blue Beetle mask, that's kind of like a new hot thing coming out. I personally don't know anything about the character.
Okay.
Will I make it? Maybe, but I haven't had any requests for it. But like when Moon Knight dropped, I know when you were one of the first guys to have the Moon Knight helmet out. You got to be on the ball. You got to be one of the first. So understand that people are going to catch up to you, and you're not going to be the only one that people go to, but you can easily string up $300-400 just by being the first person to offer that product for sale. Now you got to be very careful, because when you're getting into 3D printing, people use Thingiverse, people are on Patreons, things like that. You always want to respect the modeler. And one thing that I'll tell people is, like Hex 3D, I'm on Hex 3D, and they openly say you can sell and do whatever you want. It's good, but it's bad because you've got thousands of members. So you're competing against them. So I've reached out to numerous, individual modelers. I bought their STLs, off of Etsy and stuff like that. And a lot of them, if you just say, hey man, I plan on selling this, and they'll maybe just ask you for like a one-time fee, and usually it's like 35-40 bucks, just the rights to sell that. And you tell them like, hey, I'm going to paint this, I'm going to sand this, I'm not going to sell the file. I don't even really do a lot of raw prints. So as long as you're open and honest with the modeler, usually they're pretty cool, you know what I mean? So but that's one big thing, is kind of getting on the ball, is riding that wave. And you know that better than anybody. So one thing that kind of helps you is new things that come out. Because if you're going to sit there and print, Mandalorian helmets, Iron Man helmets, just Batman cowls, I mean, you've really got to stand out. And I think one big mistake a lot of people do is they sell them for cheap. And unfortunately, that waters down the market. You got somebody
Yeah,
like
I
me
agree.
who,
So
oh, go ahead.
no, you're good. So after you got your first machine and you said, man, I got to make money from this. How did you get your first clients?
So early on, I just kind of went through on Facebook Marketplace, and I went on some of the prop forums and just, shared some of the pictures, that of the stuff that I was printing and that I was doing, that I was working on. And, I basically, said, hey, PM me for price. And the nice thing about talking, directly with people is, I have an extended background of, customer service, and I can find unwanted needs just by talking to people. So you kind of build that one-on-one relationship. And that's something that I can really highly recommend. These people are giving you hundreds of dollars to take a roll of plastic, and you take it and create your own canvas. So you're able to ask questions and maybe add add-ons. Hey, do you want LED eyes? Do you want a magnetic back? Do you want this wet sanded? Do you want voice, sound in it or something like that? These are all things that whatever your scope of talent is, you can add these things on just by talking to people. So early on, it was a grind. It was going out there, sharing pictures on Facebook groups and stuff like that. But eventually I got comfortable to the point to where I opened an Etsy store, which many people do, and it's good and it's bad. The Etsy fees are getting heavier and heavier. It's tough. Anything over 600 bucks now, you have to claim on taxes. So if you're doing this as a side hustle, don't think the IRS ain't going to come knocking at your door. Just be legit. It's not worth of taking $1,000 fine over paying a couple $100. So the Etsy store was next. And like I said, that was great because your Etsy store will build its own algorithm and SEO, and you'll come up on Google searches and stuff like that. So once I kind of, got beyond the Facebook pages and marketplace, which I still use and I still recommend just because it's, if you're trying to maximize your exposure, the more I see it, the better chance you have of selling stuff.
Gotcha.
But
So,
pretty much from
so what machine did you use when you first started? Like, so
when I
I know you got a
first,
CR10.
right, yeah.
When you invested your money back into the business to get more machines, obviously, what machines did you buy?
So I had the CR10 and then I bought a CR10 mini and then I bought a CR10 V2 because my wife was going to strangle me with how loud those boards were. And I wasn't about to jump in and start swapping boards without having a backup machine or knowing how to do it. So immediately, like I said, once things started rolling, I bought two printers and that CR10 V2, that was about a $380 machine and the CR10 mini was around 200. So again,
They're
right
pretty
away.
affordable now.
Oh yeah, way more affordable now for sure. But about $700 got dumped in. So realistically, in those first couple of months, I mean, the first profits I had weren't even profits; they were just going right back, back into the machines, and that grew. Eventually, I got a CR10 V3 for printing TPU. I got another CR10 Mini. Now I have a CR10 Max, a CR6 SE, a CR6 Max, Anycubic Mono X. I mean, I've got printers everywhere now. Ender 5 Plus that has got every.
Yeah. So how many machines do you have now?
So right now I currently have 9 printers.
9 printers.
They're not all. I don't know if you could see that one in the corner there.
I
That
see
one's
it
next to my
by
bed.
the window. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my CR6 SE. That I use mostly for busts, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's a real quiet printer, real controlled, awesome printer. So I have a whole room. You may have seen photos of it, on the page, but I have a whole room and I'm actually talking about investing. I just put AC in my garage and I am actually renovating my whole garage for my 3 large printers, my 5 Plus, my CR6 Max, and my CR10 Max. So
Nice.
again, investing, you got to put back because if you want
That's
to
how
do
you grow.
this,
If you don't put it back, you don't grow.
you can't limit yourself. And if you limit yourself, you can't look at it as, oh, I'm losing money. You're looking at it as I'm putting in $1,000, but I'm going to make 2,000. If you're, if you have efficiency, if you're good with marketing, putting money in, you're always going to get it back. So,
And what filament are you using?
So right now I don't really go too wide of the spectrum. I keep it pretty simple. I use Zero, I use Tech Bears, and I use Overture. When I got into it, like anybody else, I was trying to buy the cheapest filament I possibly could, and that's not always
That's
the
not
best
always a
thing.
good plan. Yeah, you got to get quality.
You end up wasting money and stuff like that. But again, properly calibrating your machines, dry boxes, things like that. I know you're in California. I'm not sure how moist it is out there, but here in Florida, it's pretty stupid. You know what I mean? So again, not only investing back into getting printers, but getting proper setup. Putting the time into it, calibrating it, learning the technology, doing things like dry boxes, buying quality filament is all going to pay dividends. It's going to save you money. You might pay an extra $2 or $3 a roll of filament, but what if you buy a crappy roll of filament and it clogs and it fails? You just wasted $15. You know what I mean? So, oh, that flies back again.
Yeah, that flies back.
So,
I know. We'll just keep rolling. Who
he's
cares?
he's our special guest, man. Well,
He
you guys
is.
will
He's
have
a special
you guys
guest
will have
for
a
today.
great gag reel. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right. So where were we with our questions here?
We were
That's why it
talking
threw me off.
about
All right,
what printers I got.
Yeah. So how else does the business make money now? I know you have your YouTube channel.
Right.
Tell us more about that.
So my YouTube channel, the reason why I started doing the YouTube channel was initially it was to show clients the amount of work I put into my models. Of course you can sit there and tell people, hey, I'm going to sand it, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You're going to show them pictures, it's going to look great. But I mean, a picture is only worth so much. I mean, video showing the process, the time and everything. I mean, realistically, what I make in my business versus what I make at home is quadruple. I could go to the shop and have a great day and it could take me a month to do a helmet with the time that I have.
Mhm.
So the YouTube channel really was to initially show people my process, and what I call the proper process, because we know there's a lot of old wives' tales in 3D printing. You don't need to wet sand everything. Everything doesn't need a black base coat. So some of it was to, educate people, but then show people my process. And now it's more or less I'm trying to help people in the 3D print community, you know, just whether it be starting a business or whether it be you know, getting the best results out of your model. I did a video on silk printing, and silk printing is a great example how if you're getting into business, you know, you could do a Dr. Doom mask and you could do a raw print, and then you could do something in silk. A lot of people struggle with printing in silk. With me, I took the time to learn it, and I love it.
It's
You know
all
what
I
I mean? It
print
makes
with
me,
is silk.
yeah, exactly.
I
It
love
makes you
silks. They're great.
yeah, if you can, you once you get it dialed in, man, it's easy. You know, if people are like, they think it's this unicorn that it's just, no, man, just, you know, just mess around, you understand your settings, your machine, your printer, boom. So I did that video not only to help people as a hobby, but help people as a business. You know, you sell a raw print, you know, Dr. Doom mask, a black, you know, a black PLA, you may get 40, 50 bucks for it. You do a silk one, you can get double, triple that. So, you know, a lot of the YouTube is not just showing people proper form and proper steps, but to help them to where, you know, if, I mean, you get a good print, yeah, of course you're going to be able to sell it. You know what I mean? So my channel is all about help, man. You know, I'm pretty open and honest, and I don't know everything. You know, we have a Discord on my channel, you know, and there's guys in there that are doing crazy stuff that you don't even see on Facebook. It's nuts. You know what I mean? So, there's, like I said, there's so many misconceptions in the 3D printing community, and people ultimately are going to do what they want, and you know, and vice versa. But the idea is to be open-minded and just to share knowledge and help people succeed, whether it be as a hobby or as a business.
So how's that helping you with, in terms of marketing? Is it helping you
Oh yeah,
generate more customers?
So it's crazy. So I just finished a I don't know if you've ever played the game Half-Life, the video game Half-Life, but they have a character called Metro Cop, and I had a guy who's seen one of my YouTube shorts and of a helmet that I had already done, a Metro Cop, and he reached out to me. He must have Googled it, and my shop came up for whatever reason. This guy's in Italy, and he emailed me and said, hey, you know, can you do this? This is how I'd like it done. So long story short, one YouTube, a 60-second YouTube short video got this customer in the door for a $500 helmet.
Attaboy.
Just wrapped it up a couple days ago. You know, shipped it out. Of course, after the Etsy fees and everything and materials, I probably brought home, I'd say $415 ish, maybe more, but I always like to go low, and then if it's high, hey, that's a bonus, you know. So,
Sure.
but all in all, about 5 to 6 hours from home, and you know, bringing in, you know, 415 bucks. I mean, you know, for doing it at your leisure, it's great.
Yeah, and I
Once
mean
you
the machine's
build,
doing all the heavy lifting, right? It does all
right,
the printing for you.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so how else have you tried to increase sales, like free shipping, ads, anything like that? What's
So
working on
I
your
don't
end?
really, so yeah, Etsy kind of has their own, there's an option in your store where you can do offsite ads, and I did click that. Now the fee is pretty heavy. But
Is it
last
worth it?
year on Etsy, what's that?
Is it worth it?
Well, so last year from offsite ads, I made an extra $2,700. You know, Etsy did grab about 300 bucks from that, but I mean, that's $2,700 that I didn't have before. So, you know, if you're
That's
using
that's a
Etsy,
trip to Disneyland, bro.
yeah, exactly. Maybe, I don't know nowadays.
Yeah.
If,
Well, maybe, right? If you're in California, yeah,
yeah,
but
if you're
from
not
Florida,
for
that's
me,
just a
man.
flight.
I don't even think 2,700 could get me to Disney World, and I'm 6 hours away from it. It's so damn expensive, man. You know, but so there's certain marketing things, you know, like if you plan on using Etsy, you can, you know, you can absolutely offer things like coupons, free shipping, things like that. I did the offsite ads because, like I said, that actually comes up on a Google search, and I thought that would be more beneficial. I typically I don't really I don't run sales or things like that unless I have to. Now, if you're starting off, you want to get your name out there, absolutely. But the way I gauge my helmets is quality over quantity. So you know, I'm not saying I disagree with running, you know, 10% off or something like that, but if you are consistently pulling in customers, and you know, say you set a goal for 4 helmets a month and you're reaching that, there's really no sense to you know, throw coupons out there, or free. There's no sense to take money out of your pocket if you don't need to. You know, to grow, absolutely. You know, did I personally ever run any sales? I did free shipping on some busts and stuff because that was like $8. But these big helmets, and unfortunately, with what everything costs nowadays, gas going, just everything's so expensive. You know, to offer free shipping on a helmet, to properly ship it, protect it, you're giving away, you know, 40, 50 bucks. that's really up to you. That's up to your shop. That's, it's your shop. If you want to do that, would you possibly get in more sales? Absolutely. Just understand, you might be taking, $40 off your plate. So some people might say, hey, it's worth it to eat $40 to make 300. I guess that's not a bad way to look at it. I just personally, I never really ran too many, specials and things like that. I kind of let my work dictate who comes in, like I said, the quality. In my descriptions in Etsy, I tell people, hey, I printed at a 0.2 layer height, I'm using this product, I'm using that product. And then I'll actually leave a link off my YouTube and say, if you'd like to learn more about the process and how your helmet will be made, you can click this link here. So it's helping both, because I'm getting views and watch time, and people are understanding, hey, this is why this
That's
helmet's
smart.
400.
You're getting on both ends.
Yeah. This
So
is why this guy's helmet's 400 and this guy's 200, so.
So what's next for you, man? What's the future for Darkwing Dad?
Obviously, continuing on in the YouTube, but really, and I'll kind of backtrack a little bit, with things that I was selling. So on the Facebook, hustle, so to say, I got into, using, Tinkercad, Blender, Fusion. I actually started making things like backup camera mounts, parts for drones, modifying pre-existing STLs. I'll actually show you this real quick. It's not completely done, but this was, unfortunately, my wife's cousin passed away, and this was her sister has, now this is a holder for his ashes. So they called him Mr. Salt from Blue's Clues. And this holds the necklace, and this is something that I just kind of created in a CAD program. I took a SVG and just, created, imported that as an STL and just kind of create this something real simple, using things like Blender, 3D Builder, stuff like that. So for me,
so what are you primarily using the software? Are you
yeah. So for me, the next step is actually kind of doing what you do, but on a more intro level. Right now I'm able to make, like I make fog light mounts for Jeeps. I mean, I'm basic geometric shapes with exact dimensions, or if you give me a part to replicate it, I made a gauge.
The Fusion would actually be better for that.
Yeah, Fusion. Yeah, so that's a deep program, man. Like I'm learning, yes, but it's pretty Fusion crazy, man. So
that's a good one though.
For me, the continued integration of electronics. So like right now I'm working on a Thanos helmet. It's strictly a display piece, but I'm making it for a customer. So when he walks into his room, it has a motion sensor hooked up to it, and it lights up all the colors of the Infinity Stones, and it does the gauntlet. Pretty cool. So for me, it's integrating more electronics, cameras, servos, linear actuators, things like that. So actually getting into robotics, because I actually have a guy that works behind me at my shop that actually does robotic drones and things for the military. So I'm actually learning things from him.
Awesome.
How to actually use robotics. He actually has 3D printers in there too, because he makes certain things like on drones that hold these little like bomb bear. It's like these shells that they drop, and they actually 3D print them. So they do all PETG and ABS and everything. So I'm learning some stuff from him. So for me, it's just raising that bar higher. It's doing better paint jobs, integrating more electronics, and really starting to design stuff. You know what I mean? Getting into actually making my own STLs. It's probably going to be a good minute, because I've made some things, but they're not anywhere near what, if you're like, I seen that new Wolverine one that you dropped, that mashup that you did. And I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, dude, I don't know how, that's crazy, man. Like, that's absolutely insane. Like, just nuts, So, for me, it's just the continued, doing my mask at a high quality, integrating some new features that I haven't seen, done before. And, maybe start, kind of, developing some parts and things like that. But, for now, I just enjoy, being able to do, little cool things like this, making little jewelry boxes and stuff like that. Like I'm just proud of doing that I can get that, So.
Awesome, man. So that's it for me, man. Let's wrap it up with your number one tip for anyone who wants to start their own 3D printing side hustle.
So for what I would recommend for people is get into making models that you are passionate about. Okay. So, for me, it's kind of hypocritical to say, but I have a passion for art. I have a passion for creation, but I'll give you a prime example. I had a customer, I did a Darth Vader helmet for him. Okay. Fully wet sanded. I mean, it's black, black helmet, fully wet sanded, fully refined. This thing had a better paint job than most cars on the road. I would never do that ever again. I think I got gray hairs from doing it, which is not cool. It was just so much effort, and it gets to a point to where when you're doing something that is mentally and physically exhausting you and draining you, you're not going to put your best effort forward. So do something that you have a passion for and that you enjoy doing, because when you take that passion, that drive, that motivation out, it's going to show in your end piece, and you're going
It
to have
does. It really does.
you're going to
Your
have
work shows what's in your heart.
yeah, you're going to have unhappy clients, and you're going to be miserable going into it. You know what I mean? So always do stuff that you are passionate about, whether it be, like my buddy Daryl at Offer 3D, he does amazing Halo stuff. Like, he loves Halo, and that's his bread and butter, and he does great things. Me, there are a handful of projects that I would rather decline. If I had to do them, I would do them, but I would say always do what you're passionate about, because you're going to go in with the best positive attitude, and in the end result, not only are you going to have a fantastic end product, but you're going to have happy customers who are just going to spread that word. It's going to grow your your popularity and grow your bank, and before you know, you'll be like me, having 9 printers and a wife kicking you out of bed at night.
That's awesome. All right, so Brandon, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it. Wealth of knowledge, great advice on following your passion, for what you guys are going to make. So again, I told you guys to stay till the very end, and I'll give you your own 3D printing side business and your own product idea. And today's product idea are rings. I know, super simple, right? But hear me out. Rings are one of those things that they're very simple, but you can actually add a lot of detail into this. So once you guys start designing your own rings, you can easily do this in Blender or anything. I wouldn't say Fusion, just because rings are more artwork. So if you use Blender, you can add the little details in there, like maybe a skull or a unicorn or whatnot. You can even have little recesses in it, and you can go on Amazon and buy little gemstones and attach it to the rings. Now, if you guys are going to do rings, I suggest using a resin 3D printer, just because you can add all those fine details into it rather than an FDM. So now you have your own 3D printing business. You have your own product idea. Go out, execute. If you guys need help, message me. I'll help you start, grow, and scale your own 3D printing side business. And we'll try to even get guys like Brandon to help you guys out if you guys need anything. So again, Brandon, I really appreciate it, man. Congratulations. We'll do this again in the future for a Where Are They Now episode.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking with you, meeting with you face to face. Obviously, you guys probably know Nico. If you're not, join that 3D printing armor page. It's awesome.
Just a really dude in the garage, man. That's all I am.
really appreciate the chatting with you and the opportunity, and look forward to doing some stuff in the future with you, man.
Sweet. Thanks, B.
All right. Take care, guys.